thing you're doing with your voice, Randy. It's sexy.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, come on, you know I don't watch that shit.
Why not? Too scared?
No, it's just what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
Okay, this one is a lot. A gaggle of young folks, usually horny teens, is terrorized by a monster, usually a man in a mask, who represents a kind of pure, unwavering evil and kills with a bladed weapon. One by one, every character is picked off or incapacitated until there's only one left. A young woman who, in spite of her terror, finds the strength to fight back, and often enough, kill the killer. If you're not familiar with the slasher movies of the 70s and 80s, you might not even know at first who of the initial posse is supposed to be the protagonist. But if you're a fan, you'll recognize her instantly. Responsible, resourceful, and pure, she is the final girl. The slasher is an interesting case, because, breaking with the traditions we've established, it's an entire genre where a presumably male audience isn't expected to accept a violent woman. By the end of the film, they're expected to be screaming for her to pick up the chainsaw and kill the fuck out of the bad guy. Because the final girl is special, damn it. What sets her apart? Well, a lot of it is to do with what the final girl symbolizes and how it contrasts with the symbology of the killer. Of all the characters, she is the most suited to survive and combat the villain, which is why she outlives her friends. We can start with the most obvious difference.
What is it about this girl?
Well, she's a virgin.
Virginity means a lot of things in the movies. Purity. If the killer represents all we consider evil about the world, the antidote to that is someone who is, metaphorically, unsullied. Youth. If sex is considered a rite of passage into adulthood, then a virgin is, in some ways, still a child. And we've already discussed how relating to a child is considered a smaller ask than relating to an adult woman. Desirability. As a society, we haven't fully escaped the puritanical narrative of bringing a virgin to the altar, at least not in our movie symbolism. And codifying a woman as untainted goods invites the male audience to crush on her. There also tends to be this subtext of sexual violation to the murders, which lends the whole thing a very Chaucerian concern for preserving a young woman's maidenhead. There are other ways the final girl, if not explicitly a virgin, is virginal. She doesn't drink, or if she does, she's a lightweight. She doesn't smoke pot, or if she does, she's inexperienced. She doesn't flirt, or if she does, she's comparatively demure.
Hey, tell me, were you really gonna go ahead with it?
Actually, I haven't made up my mind.
She's also usually a bit brighter than her friends, the one who first senses something is wrong, the one who makes a plan of action, the one who figures out the killer's identity. She may not be one of the guys, but she's not like other girls. This emerges slowly over the course of the film. The more characters die, the more the final girl appears to individuate from the rest. It is the ways in which they are not like her that get the other girls killed. They're too dim, too horny, too oblivious. The empathy you build for the final girl, in part by having every other potential point of empathy systematically removed, you are not asked to extend to the other girls. You empathize with a woman, not with women. If she is special, they are unspecial. Their deaths are scary, but titillating. You're not expected to root for them the way you root for her. You're here to watch them die. Then there's the killer himself. In the early going, the camera is more closely aligned with him than any of his victims, often showing the murders literally through his eyes. It's only as the final girl grows more active in the story, and eventually becomes violent, that we gradually come to see the killer from the victim's perspective. Each slasher villain is a snapshot of what society thought an image of evil incarnate would look like at that time. The things they have in common are telling. The killer is almost always a man, Friday the 13th Part 1 notwithstanding, but is commonly, by societal standards, an insufficient man. Physically deformed, gender non-conforming, or just really, really hating sex. This is often blamed on being too close with his mommy. Meanwhile, the final girl's disinterest in the activities of other women makes her a little tomboyish, and it's really common for her to have a boy's name. Stevie, Marty, Terry, Stretch, Ripley, Taylor, Sydney. Couple this with her tendency to kill the villain with his own intimate penetrating weapon, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of phallic imagery in slasher movies because, frankly, I think most writers make too much of it, but it's there, and you can read the final girl's assault on the killer as becoming a better man than him. So we still haven't escaped the fixation with violence and masculinity. This isn't to say the final girl is another Vasquez. Even if she is ruggedized, it's not by forsaking femininity. Instead, the distinctions between masculinity and femininity are more permeable. The killer kills what is feminine, and then fails to kill what is, in some ways, less feminine than himself, and that failure leads to the reversal of who commits violence against whom. Fury Road borrows a lot of imagery from horror films, most especially in imagining Joe as huge, misshapen, and masked. But Joe's monstrosity is not a lack, but an overabundance of masculinity. By no means the ideal male body, but a body that idealizes maleness. If masculinity is a performance, then he's Kenneth fucking Branagh. He hides his welts under fake abs, war medals, and whiteness, and hangs a gear from a muscle car from highly symbolic places. And he's defeated not by appropriation of these signifiers, but by rejection of everything they stand for. But if the core of the final girl is a specialness that does not extend to other characters, can we talk about how not one person on Furiosa's side of the battle is special? Not a one of them. If we wanted to argue Furiosa is not like other girls, which other girls would we even be referring to? The femmes in white or the granny biker gang? The elderly matron, the full-bodied milk mothers, or the suffering proles? Furiosa has commonalities and differences with all of them, and they all have commonalities and differences with each other. There is no normal from which to deviate. Even within a single type, there are variations. The wives alone have the leader, the nurturer, the weird one, the scared one, and the tough one. No one is interchangeable. At the same time, no one is special. The war rig is chock full of redundancies. Multiple people who can drive, multiple people who can shoot, multiple people who can fix what's broken, which is, again, necessary because there's too much to do not to have backup.
I'm gonna need you to drive.
We don't know a lot about Joe's society, but we can infer it's a caste system that stratifies everyone by specialness, here defined by their usefulness to Joe. At the bottom are possessions, wives, blood bags, milk producers. Above them are the masses, and then the war boys, who believe they will be awaited in Valhalla if they perform their duties well. Next is Furiosa as a leader in Joe's army, and then Joe's immediate family, and then, finally, Joe himself, singular and all-powerful. Furiosa's alliance counters this verticality with a lateral power structure. I mean, it's literally the difference between a tower and a convoy, where specialness is not a prerequisite to rights, privilege, or empathy. A cooperative, where no one is fungible or disposable, and no one is special or elite. People form interdependencies with each other of their own free will and may leave at any time if they wish. No one earns a place in society, or the empathy of the audience, by proving themselves unique. It's simply assumed that everyone is deserving of both. Also, remember when I said this scene mostly kept the camera away from the wives' breasts and hips? Here's one of the only exceptions.